Hello, New York Comic Con, and welcome to Impact 24 PR's third annual Broadway to Hollywood, a look at the new age of musicals panel. This is my first Comic Con. I think this is also the first Comic Con for all of the panelists. We are so excited to be here. My name is Katharine Quinn, and I am the founder and CEO of And That's Showbiz. We do Broadway marketing and media, and I am so excited to be here with you today and go behind the curtain of some amazing projects. We're gonna jump right on in. So we're gonna first talk about these clips. It's clear that a lot of magic happens on screen and on stage. Can you each briefly share the single moment in that clip that you're the most proud of, the one that makes you say, this is exactly why I do what I do? And we're gonna start with Macy.
Sure thing. For me, the very, very first clip that came up was a shot of Barbie in concert at the Hollywood Bowl with a big pink fireworks show. And I've always wanted to produce a really huge pink fireworks show. I really got into just the magic of an immersive experience, cliche, but growing up around like the Disney World scene in Florida. And I always loved as a kid just the way a huge fireworks show makes you feel when it's set to music just right and when everything hits just right. And to put on Barbie movie in concert at the Hollywood Bowl, that particular moment of just like the grandeur of watching little kids dressed up, watching pink fireworks explode in the air, that was one of my favorite moments of anything that I've ever gotten to put on. So it was very special.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Can you all share? Can we go down the line?
Sure. So I'm David, and I worked on the Miley Cyrus video, which I think they showed a little bit of it. So that was a 45-minute entire visual album. And one of the bigger songs we did was Easy Lover, and it's a traveling song. So we did it in 2 days at the Paramount lot, and it went from her dressing room, which we actually built on the soundstage, traveled through the back of the soundstage, out to the back lot where we had horses and buggies and carts and all the sort of Hollywoodness that you see on a back lot, all the way into our active soundstage where she walked through our own shooting crew onto the stage where the backup dancers were already dancing, onto this sort of layer-caked sort of record-style drum that ended up having huge rock concert lighting and this crazy 16-foot diameter moon that we built the day before. So I think for me, it's like when we're able to pivot and work with the team and achieve these ideas, like designing, fabricating, and adjusting to the flow of ideas, that's truly what like every single project I work on, I strive to do. And you can see it clearly in that entire sequence when you watch that video, because all the work is on screen behind her, and she's awesome at it, so.
Love it.
Can you hear me? I'm Brian. I edited Kiss of the Spider Woman, which comes out tonight or tomorrow. I think they showed a clip from Where You Are, which is a number that is sort of iconic from the original show with Chita Rivera, sort of channeling Marlene Dietrich. I love that number because it was very challenging to edit. It's very frenetic. We have incredible dancers, we have theatrical lighting, it's many sets and 3 cameras, and they shot 5 hours. I think I had to assemble it basically in a day and a half, so that they would stay on schedule. But what I love is that at the end of the number, after all the dancing and leaping and costumes and lighting and flashing and blah, 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 there's a really slow part where Jennifer Lopez says to Tonatiuh, who plays Molina, you're my sweetest fan, my leading man, and that exchange never changed from the very first cut I did until the released film, because the performances and their close-ups are so intimate, and there's such love between this fan and his idol that I hope you feel it when you see the movie.
Yeah.
Hi, Wendy, and see the film. I got to go to a screening of it, and yeah, it's all that and then some, so congrats. I think it was up on the video. We just opened 13 Going on 30 musical in the UK, so there wasn't enough time to get it into this one if we're talking about shows that I've worked on that have come film. But I would say, I think Moulin Rouge was in there, and what was really cool with Moulin Rouge is loved the film from years ago, so when I was invited to become part and working on it and wondering how would that translating, but knowing with that director, with an Alex Tim, when you have, someone like in Alex Timber's hands, I mean, of course, Baz Luhrmann presence was around, but it was really Alex's vision. And from watching it from, early, workshops, and how diligently, there are pieces of 71 songs in there, but how it all pulled together, and then going to that first preview up in Boston, and just going, yeah. But what I really loved about it was it paid proper homage to the people that love the film, because you don't want to, slap the face of your original fans. It was entertaining on its own as a musical, but there was something about it where I said, this is the show that you can bring anybody to. That doesn't necessarily say I'm a Broadway lover, but just wants to be entertained from the minute you walked in the lobby, from the ambiance and all of that, and the musical and the show just delivers. And we're still running. I mean, we came back from COVID, through shutdown and back, and we've got productions around the world. And I'm kind of really, the way it was just run and handled beautifully, and I'm really thrilled to be on that producer team.
Yay.
I, of course, forgot to pay attention when the clip was playing, but hopefully the Gaga Mayhem concert was on there, and hopefully the Jesus Christ Superstar live from 2018 was on there, because those are two examples of projects that, in a really beautiful way for me in my kind of strange journey to being the designer that I am now, it sort of combines all these different genres and medias together. Because I used to be an architect, as I think David too. So architect turned set designer turned concert production designer turned immersive theater designer. And the Gaga Mayhem concert was such a beautiful intersection of musical theater, concert, spectacle, storytelling, this great artistry of Lady Gaga herself. And Jesus Christ Superstar Live is this really weird mashup of art installation, architectural design, live TV broadcast, musical theater, design of a temporary audience configuration. So I love these projects that are complicated to categorize as to exactly what they are. And so those are two examples.
Jason, we have another bonus question for you. I can project. I'm a theater person. It's okay. Redwood, which you just worked on Broadway with Idina Menzel, yes, we'll take the applause, is a very conceptual show, dealing with memory and legacy and family. How did you translate those sort of like amorphous emotional layers into a physical world?
Great question. One of the things I love about theater design is its abstractness, which is, I think, different than architecture, certainly. One of the reasons I sort of left architecture is I wanted to design poetic spaces, and I would say Redwood is this great example of a story that doesn't actually want to be set in a redwood forest. It does not want to be set in any sort of literal location. And that's true of a lot of theater production, but particularly this one. So, Redwood, I would say, for anybody who has seen it, knows about it, is set in the psychological space of Idina's character, Jessie. So to design a psychological space is really interesting, very abstract, and it can morph and change. Sometimes we want to kind of evoke her perception of what it would be like to be in the redwood forest, which is a very different thing than trying to design the redwood forest. And so it opened up a lot of really interesting kind of languages of playing with pretty abstract ideas that were able to deliver pretty specific moments. But if you were to ask me what the design of Redwood physically is, I would say it's not a redwood forest. It is kind of intersection of brain space of a woman breathing. It's a broken vessel inspired by the Jewish mystic creation story of Tikkun Olam, about gathering light. also an intersection, kind of cosmic map of the universe and the root system of the tree. So that, like, that's a really interesting starting point for designing space. Not sure.
Yes, beautiful. Do we have any 13 going on 30 fans in the audience? Yes, thank you. Me too. I'm a millennial. I am the target audience, and I am so excited it's being made into a musical. So, Wendy,
Yes.
what drew you to the piece? What made you want to adapt it and reimagine it for the stage?
You know, it was just one of those fortuitous moments. I was working on something else in London, and Adi Fikru, our 13 going on 30 director, was also working over there because he's done Heathers, which is back here, and I'll give him some snaps on that. Maybe you haven't seen it in New England stages. But anyway, it was one of his thoughts about, gee, that could make a good film. And you know, sometimes these conversations just sort of happen. And then I was there, and it was, well, that was my daughter and mine, like, go-to film. And I'd happened to produce a film for Jen Garner. So, you know, I had an extra sort of feeling to it because she's as nice as you think she is. She's even nicer and sweeter. Oh, yeah, just a delicious, wonderful person. So there was just a whole lot of, you know, and she had just recently come out of the dress again, I think on the anniversary of the show or something. Anyway, the original film writer, the studio was into it. The original screenwriters, lovely married couple, Kathy and John, they wrote the book. Great composers, Alan and Michael. It just all pulled itself together. But for me, it was very important, again, as I said, even with Moulin Rouge, when you do anything from source material, and the more beloved that the source material it is, the more important it is to really give the respect to that fan base. But again, theater and musical theater being such a different medium than film, you know, still having to put it into the context of a musical with an intermission, you know, with songs that at that point, you know, so we had book writers that loved theater, but were primarily film and TV writers. And, you know, the craft work just got done. And to see it live in front of an audience, we just premiered, world premiere was in the Manchester Palace and Opera House. On September 30th was our opening night. And this is our first out of town where we have future ahead of us, thanks to audiences loving it, theater owners from London and wherever loving it. But when she comes out in the dress, the audience goes, well, when you hear the first 3 notes of Thriller. And that was a big point for me. I said, we are not doing this at all if we don't get the rights. And Michael Jackson did not write Thriller. You know, everybody's got so many stories on every project we worked on. Things that seem like, oh, that's a no-brainer, but how difficult it might be to make that no-brainer happen. But you know, it could be a little moment, but you know how important it is. And, you know, so we're still early in the process of you know, the UK is a bit different from working on Broadway or theater. Here you have a much, much shorter rehearsal time and much shorter preview time. Here you get, for a new musical, 3 to 4 weeks. Over there, I think we had 7 performances. And you can have sets that freeze, and all these technical things happen that you're not even able to get into all the musical and storytelling changes you want to do. So the fact that we were so well received, knowing that there's still more work to be done and craft to be done, we're really just thrilled to continue the journey and to take 13 going on 30 around the world.
Brian, with Kiss of the Spider-Woman hitting theaters tomorrow, is there a specific scene or moment you're most proud of shaping? One where you feel like the editing really brought the story to life?
Oh, thank you. I mean, where you are, the scene that I mentioned, but also I'm excited because there's 2 numbers in the movie that were written for the original SUNY Purchase production. That were written for the 1990s SUNY Purchase workshop production of The Spider-Woman that did not make it to the Broadway production in 1994, I believe. And Bill Condon, who wrote and directed the movie, resurrected them and re-envisions the whole idea of the movie, the film within a film that is being told in the movie. So these songs, which are J Mad and Never You, have never been recorded, except you could see them at the Lincoln Center Library for the Performing Arts if you watch that production, but otherwise they were unknown until now. So I love that I'm bringing a new Cantor 2 new Cantor songs to the world. And you know, editing is about rhythm. So everything about what I do is related to music, and I feel like
Bill gave me plenty of creative opportunities to say, we need a breast here. This also has to be longer. We need another bar here. All of the stuff that goes into music editing is really fun for me, and I feel like whenever they had a playground, we're always encouraged to, to use those skills. So I'm very grateful.
So David, concert films are kind of their own beast. You have to capture both intimacy and the spectacle of the event. So how did you design the visual world of Something Beautiful to reflect Miley Cyrus's artistry and connect with audiences on a personal level?
Yeah, this was my first full music video as well. And my background is in architecture and theater and film and TV. And I was grateful to get that project because it blended all of those things. It was an extremely large scope. When we first started, it was 8 songs. We ended up having to do 6. And by the time we finished, Miley threw in the rest of them with the days of finishing. It's like, let's just do that and that one and this one, and then we'll do all of them. So we kind of had 8 days of shooting, and we did 11 songs in 8 days. So if anyone knows like a normal music video, normally you have 2 to 3 or 4 days to do one. So it was fast, furious, and exciting. And for me, that's like, it comes down to translating like scope and scale. So the colors and the textures and everything in the wide shots have to, have that scope and scale to feel a presence or a space or convey large theme ideas. So the audience visually knows where they are. And then for music videos, right? Like it becomes all about the tight shots, like Miley's beautiful makeup and her hair and her face and seeing lips singing words, right? Like that's how you actually get story out of music. So the tighter shots is about like her personality. She's magnetic already. Her charm, her poise, they have to command the screen. She's a born performer, and it's my job then to, not visually overwhelm those close-ups. So she's the focus, and you have to be very strategic because the canvas can't be blank either, right? Behind my head is our step and repeat, right? So in any shot, you see where we are. Woo! So like that choice of what those colors and textures are have to translate from the biggest theatrical stage, as wide as it can be, to the most intimate and, portrait shot. And that's it. Like everything I do is about translating scope and scale for color and texture behind actors or the subjects, face or frame or liquor. So.
Thank you. Macy, it's Barbie time.
He sure is. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Barbie the movie in concert combines the magic of the hit film with the energy of live music. So as a producer, how did you approach adapting the film's score and songs for a live concert experience while still keeping the heart of what audiences, like myself, loved so much on screen?
That's a very good question. It's so interesting because when you asked David's question and you mentioned concert film and the way that you're translating, I'm doing the exact inverse and doing film concert. So if you've ever seen, it's a niche medium. It's one that I've really fallen in love with and that most of my work in the space is now in. But if you've ever seen, the most famous ones are Harry Potter live in concert with an orchestra, or Star Wars live in concert with an orchestra, where they screen the film and an orchestra plays the music.
I took my kids to Moana at the
Yeah,
bowl.
yeah.
And the Moana at the bowl was beautiful.
Yeah. No, so those, I've fallen in love with them, but it was a weird journey to get there that's kind of influenced what I try to do with them now. I started working on Broadway as an orchestrator. I'm a theater girl. We're all theater people who have taken our work into translating different mediums into different things. And then I started an all-women orchestra that's now become a lot of all-women orchestras in countries around the world. And we started getting asked to perform as the orchestra for these film concerts. We were brought into one in particular that was really special to me, which was the world premiere of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse live in concert. We then took that one on a 73-city tour around the US. And that was really cool for me because I'm just like an orchestras nerd. I love orchestras, and it's very niche. And at Spider-Verse, we saw these sold-out audiences of young families and kids like dressed up as characters coming to see an orchestra play the music to the screening of the movie of the IP that they loved. And a family came up to me after the Spider-Verse show, and they were like, this was so cool. We didn't realize there was going to be an orchestra here. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I don't know what you thought it was going to be, but I'm so glad. It was like, this was our first orchestra we've ever seen. And that was what inspired me to go into the route of wanting to develop one of my own. And that moment, Barbie the movie had just come out in theaters. So I wrote to Mattel and I was like, I'm not sure what the right situation to this is, but I have an all-woman orchestra with lots and lots of Barbies in it. And maybe we could do Barbie the movie in concert with an all-Barbie orchestra. And something that I felt in Spider-Verse was that the way that this very, very niche medium is done up to this point mostly is you put the film on the screen as a file, and then an orchestra, the New York Philharmonic or the LA Philharmonic, dresses in black, and they stand in front and they play the music, and it's about the music. So for Barbie, I really, I guess, wanted to make my life really, really hard and really miserable, and wanted to turn every venue into Barbie land top to bottom, with the players dressed up as Barbie and then transforming into Kens. And you park at the Hollywood Bowl, and Helen Mirren's voice is narrating the experience, welcoming you to leaving reality behind and entering into Barbie land. And every little bit of how do you pull elements that are happening in the movie into bringing you into the world and immersive experience, but the whole thing is still about screening a movie. So as far as the music, not many people, especially in the symphonic film concert world, we get a lot of questions of like, oh, well, is there really symphonic music in Barbie? And what's interesting is if you listen to it with an ear to it, there are only 7 minutes approximately in the entire film where there isn't symphonic or pop music playing. The conductor only does not have the baton up for 7 minutes in the Barbie movie. And so something that I've loved is getting to like piece together everyone knows those songs now. The Summer of the Barbie movie like drilled them into our heads. But like Dance the Night Away and I'm Just Ken, like those have like thick, intense orchestral backing around them, and it's so much easier to catch it when you're seeing the musicians play what you're hearing. So for people to say, oh, it was so much more like cinematic than it really kind of comes through on the screen, I've loved that. I've loved just kind of getting to play in the film concert world and see like how theatrical can I make this medium with it still kind of being about coming to see the movie with 15,000 of your closest friends.
Love it. That's amazing. Okay, so this is for anyone, an all skate, a choose your own adventure. Every project sort of has the aha moment where things just sort of click into place. Do any of you recall a particular one on a recent project that was just like magic?
Oh, I do.
Go for it.
We shot. I mean, our movie takes place in a prison in Argentina in the '80s, and also in a Hollywood movie from the '50s. So we shot the Hollywood movie first in New Jersey on a soundstage, and then the crew went to Montevideo, Uruguay, to shoot the prison. So the day that I put them together for the first time, everyone I think was kind of nervous because they had only seen they'd only seen the movie. So it was a Friday night, and I sent the file to Uruguay, and I was kind of like, it was like tick 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 tick, because I was nervous. I was nervous too that this transition would not fulfill the expectations, and then they called me from the hotel room, Greg, the producer, and Bill, the director, and I think they were kind of emotional because the experiment on which the entire movie rested was not a failure.
Yay.
I find that, I think, because, working in live theater, I think the aha moments come a lot, when you've been in rehearsal and rehearsal and rehearsal, and even sometimes we do have an invited dress, which still is your first, but you're still inviting sort of friends and family, and again, sometimes you stop and things go on, but no matter what, that first time that you're in front of what I like to call that first preview paid audience, when, you're going to get your real feedback, is always kind of that aha moment, and it doesn't go away. I think that's one of the things that I just love about, being in the live theater space, is that I've seen some of my own shows dozens and dozens of times, and it's that relationship between the people, the stage, the actors, the musicians, and the audience that can just change those moments. No experience is the same. And interesting with Kiss of the Spider-Woman, when we did about songs being in shows or having to be put in films or whatnot, when we did Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. The original Cinderella was only, they wrote, Rodgers and Hammerstein, they wrote an hour TV show. So they only had music and that many songs, but we needed a 2-hour, 20-minute musical for Broadway. They had a long list of songs that had been taken out of all of their other musicals. And they went into the file of Rodgers and Howard, what songs have never been on Broadway before, and those songs were very seamlessly woven into the storytelling, because obviously the composers were no longer around, and you didn't want to pay the disrespect of using newer. So it was great to have new, like the world hear new Candy and Ebb songs. But sometimes that can actually happen. But I think Cinderella's the one where it was more songs than usual because it was based on a 1-hour property.
That's amazing.
Theater's always aha.
I love it.
I have one
Or
that's...
oh.
Oh, sorry. Where you go? Oh. I have a sentimental one. I'm going to assume that a lot of people in here probably saw Barbie. I don't know how you could have escaped Barbie in 2023. But we were in rehearsals for the Hollywood Bowl, I guess our first preview, for the concert. And I was conducting the show. I conduct a lot of the Barbie shows, and we have a giant all-woman orchestra in the rehearsal room. And one of the women who was our principal violist, she is a single mother who brought her daughter with her. And her daughter was 7, and the family is Indian. I'm Middle Eastern, but she kind of like looked like me. And while we were there, there was a moment where I looked over in the corner, and she was like playing with, like, it was either Barbie dolls or one of the batons, and she was just kind of like playing and in play mode. And I had an idea for, in the Barbie movie, when they do this, when What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish plays, they do this kind of flashback sequence that's like, we call it the girlhood flashback, where they're going through like all the memories of like what it is to be a little girl and to be play. And so I asked her mom, I was like, I don't want to like terrify your precious daughter, but do you think she would be down to, during that song, surprise the audience and come up and trade places with me and conduct What Was I Made For? And I was like, you're a professional violist, she probably knows some stuff. And we did it, and I sat there and like taught her how to, beat a conductor pattern. And we did that as kind of something that I was just going to do for the Hollywood Bowl show because it was like the big special premiere show. And I will tell you, as much fun as I had designing a 2-minute pink fireworks show, that was the thing that everyone talked about was not the giant fireworks spectacular. It was the little 7-year-old girl who took the podium. And the next show we did was at Royal Albert Hall in London. And it just so happened that the same family, all of their extended family was from London. So the player called me up and she was like, our family's in London. Amelia loved doing this. She really wants to do it again. Could she maybe do it again? I'm like, could she do it again? Sure. So we do the same thing in London, same reaction. And then I kind of thought that it was just going to be those two and done. It didn't occur to me that as we tour the world with Barbie, we should be finding 6-year-olds to take the podium. And then I got to China in May for a tour of Barbie the movie in concert in China. And I show up in Shanghai. And I guess from seeing the media of the past shows, the producers are like, here's your 6-year-old girl in a pink tutu, and who speaks no English. The only words I ended up learning in Mandarin were up, down, left, and right. And we had all across China little 6 or 7-year-old girls do this moment. And now that we've been around 4 continents and touring the world with the show, it's the thing that like, it's become the heart of the whole thing. And it was like, my aha moment was, okay, you can spend however many, tons of figures of dollars on a pink fireworks spectacular, but the thing actually that moves people is connecting just the girlhood and the humanity and like the sentimentality of that moment with what's going on screen and pulling a message from the screen. It's like that dose of theatricality, and that is just worth so much more than how much money you could put on stage or on screen. And that was an aha moment for Barbie, but it's also definitely informed my aha moments for everything moving forward is, the weight between the spectacle and those little moments that are worth so much more.
Yeah, well, like 100%. You can prep something to death, but you'll never know until the moment that it happens what the true choice will become. So, like performing arts, collaborative arts, film, cinema, television, music, orchestration, like it all takes a group to make. It's not a fine art where you're just in your studio painting your own painting, right? So it's a collaborative art. And with everyone's voice, you find those aha moments. For us on Miley, we were stretched, right? I said 11 songs. It was 6 songs ballooned to 11. So her entire song, Walk of Fame, which is one of the best pop songs out there for her, was done in an aha moment, maybe the day before we started shooting. We were so stretched to build this entire backlot sequence, dress storefronts, get lighting, do a night shoot, make it rain, all this stuff, all these huge lofty ideas that just like every department was stretched and over budget. And she had always said, like, oh, I just want to be on the Hollywood strip, like on the stars dancing. And we're like, well, we can't afford that. Like, we can't shut down Hollywood Boulevard on the strip. Like, that's crazy. And then we realized that, like, what we were trying to do to fake it was just as crazy, you know? And, like, I could have built Hollywood Boulevard. Yes, absolutely, I can design that and we can make it. But it's, like, double cost prohibitive. So I suggested with the director, I was like, well, what if we just go rogue indie style? Like, you guys shoot student movies and stuff here in New York where it's like a camera on the subway and maybe one light and a sound guy-ish. And that's what we did. We pitched it to Miley and she's like, yeah, I'll go, as long as no one's there. And I was like, well, we can't control it. So what we did is we went the night before Halloween, because we figured Halloween, everybody would be out there. But the night before Halloween, which is like a Tuesday night, we went at 3 a.m. and she went rogue. And we didn't even control traffic. We didn't control sidewalks. We asked people politely to avoid where she was performing. But she did it. She did the real thing on the Hollywood Stars. You can see it in the video. I think she went on Jimmy Fallon telling everyone she got a staph infection in her knee or something, because it was like, you know, we just went rogue. And it's absolutely awesome. And when you can have a true artist do the real thing in real life on camera, that's when magic happens.
Love it.
Especially even with indie film. Been a little bit of, I produced the film I did with Jen Garner, was also with Bryan Cranston, and we mostly filmed it in Pasadena, but we needed 2 days in New York. And it's called the film called Wakefield. Quite interesting. He's wonderful in it, like 2016. Anyway, we needed the opening shot of him going through Grand Central to get on the train to go home. Anyway, you know, the budget was this big, and basically had to wrangle it where we got some of the actual police in Grand Central were so thrilled to see Brian that they really started, all right, you know, he just has to walk from here to here. We had a lot of local friends and people in the background to be walking as passengers around him. But basically, he promised all of these different people, if you just let me walk through and I have to get a cup of coffee, walk back out here, I'll take pictures with you, you'll get my autographs, but we got it done in the one take. But that's also having an incredible actor who happens to be a really great guy, also get the process that we got one shot to do this. It was like right in between like 9:30, 10 after commuter, and we just were able to get it from, you know, one side all the way to the other to him going to the tracks. And you go, sometimes it's those rogue things.
Gotta go rogue.
When you're working with a professional like you or with Miley, that, you know, they know what they need to do and they work with the crowd and you just get it done. But it happens.
Love it. Jason, anything?
I have a quick thing. So what you were saying about the audience being kind of the important final key of a live theatrical thing is true, and normally that's what I focus on, but I had this really interesting experience working on Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl, and your amazing aha moment reminded me of this. Where before we had an audience, we had what's called a Sitzprobe, which you probably know what that means, but if you don't, it just basically is a fancy word for meaning you sit and you play the music together with the orchestra for the first time. And so for us, it was this very private moment. And I had been there for a week, stressing out about the set and the logistics and everything. And then we're in this room with the orchestra for the first time with the performers. And Cynthia Erivo gets up and sings Gethsemane. And everybody just stopped. And like the humans in the room became the audience for her, for them. And it was this incredible private theatrical performance exchange. And when it was over, everybody was just like, what just happened? And then we went on with our work. But it was sort of a reminder for me of the kind of core of why I do what I do, which is about this human exchange of passionate communication. It's easy to forget in our roles, kind of behind the scenes, where all of our various ways were focused on the logistics and the challenges and how do we get the one shot without the permit, and how do we get the automation to work. And it's wonderful to get those reminders about just the pure humanity of it.
I love that. I sort of have a follow-up question for Wendy. You've produced a number of Broadway hits like Hadestown and Moulin Rouge, Dear Evan Hansen, and more recently Sunset Boulevard. And each of these shows has a distinct creative voice and world. So what is your role in supporting the artistic vision while also guiding the production towards commercial and critical success?
You know, every show is a bit different because it really also depends where I've come on in the process. If it's something that's already been I've seen out of town or in London, you know, and it's coming here, my role is really more about, okay, how can we, you know, making sure the finances are working and the promotion and a whole lot of those kind of details. If it's earlier in the process, you know, I remember with Dear Evan Hansen, which I heard very early on, like early songs, and then we started down in DC at the arena stages, and to Benjamin Justin's incredible credit, obviously, writing and rewriting. And there were just some moments, you know, I had a high school age son at the time, and I remember just casually going like, you know, and you're very careful with creatives and whatnot, but just saying, I think it's amazing how because it's a lot of family and parent stories and mother-son stories. And I said, you know, a couple of things there. I was thinking mother, she wouldn't say that. That's not how that wouldn't, but the way that they picked up on notes and all of that. So again, it really depends where you are. I know like with 13 going on 30, you know, you really have to have sort of one voice to the director. You can't overwhelm your creatives too much and have 10 people give 10 different notes. You know, the thing that you hope for, I think, on any project is that when everyone does get together, like us the background world, you know, and we all said get together, you all hope that you all don't like the same thing, because then it's really easily fixable. When you're all down across, that's when, you know, that's when it's a little more of a struggle, because then you know, in the world of theater, actually, is the most protective of the creative's rights and the playwright. Even when we do a revival, to do any changes or whatnot, you have to either the original creatives are around or you're dealing with the estate. I think sometimes in film and other worlds, maybe it's whom you're working with, but, you know, or if it's your pay for hire, it's different. But in theater, we have to be very respectful of not changing anything or working with the writer. And hopefully you're working with creatives, especially on something new. You know, sometimes it's the newer they are, or if it's their first opportunity for a Broadway or a West End, they're listening a little bit more because they know, all right, well, this team has been successful, so they're giving me good advice. So you really hope, and you know, that what we're seeing and the creative vision can kind of meld together, because we all want the same good. We want to create a great show that is going to be a wonderful work of art that audiences are happy, but it is show business. And, you know, in the world of theater, we have to run. It's not like we have to bring audiences back. We need the word of mouth. You know, reviews help. I'm a big believer in word of mouth. So we really hope and trust that our creatives, that we're all sort of working together with the same vision of, sometimes you have to tell a really important actor or actress, it's a great song, but we got to cut it, or that scene has to go, or, you know, your first preview, you're at 2 hours and 50 minutes, and we got to get it down to 2 hours and 20 minutes. And you just have to, you know, hope that you're working with the right team that you when you do your editing.
Macy, I have to
Yes.
talk about the Tony Awards 2024 opening number, which you orchestrated. What was your approach to creating the opening number of an awards show, and how did you balance the spectacle with the musicality?
That Tony Awards year was so special because it was the first year that the Tonys had an all-instrumental Tony Awards opening number. This was, in 23, the writer's strike was going on. And Lin-Manuel Miranda had been, I believe, set to pen an opening number. In solidarity with the writers, he put down his pen, and Ari DeBose was set to host. And essentially what was decided among all the Tony Awards folks was, Ari has such an unbelievable strength for dance. Let's find someone to create some sort of epic dance overture for her to just dance her way around the Tony Awards venue. But you can't use any lyrics or singing or original music or anything that constitutes writing or singers at all.
Easy.
Easy. But honestly, it's funny because so I'm an orchestrator and an arranger, but not a composer. A lot of orchestrators and arrangers, like, composing is kind of the thing they eventually want to be doing. I have absolutely no interest. I hate staring at a blank page and being told to, like, put something there for the first time. I essentially have made a musical career off of interpolating and reconfiguring existing music from other people. So I've always been obsessed with Tony's opening numbers. I always dreamed that maybe one day one of the composers who do it, would call me to orchestrate an opening number. Never thought in a trillion years that I would be told, oh, actually do this exact thing that you do that is in this one unique year where you can't use existing music. So I had a call with Ari and we started digging into it, and she had a few artistic things she wanted to be in it. Wanted it to have Latin influence, we were in the United Palace that year, which was the first year that the Tonys had been in that venue. Wanted to honor where we were, New York, and specifically Washington Heights, New York, which was special also because In the Heights was the first show that I ever music directed and like gateway drug to theater. Yeah. And she wanted it to be just an homage to dance, to Latin music, and to uptown New York. And so really we just got to pulling tons of different songs and trying to layer them on top of each other. Things like we had Uptown Funk playing while New York State of Mind is playing, or Empire State of Mind playing under NYC from Annie, or like different kinds of like pulling beats and melodies, and got to record it with the Tony's Orchestra. And then Carla Puno Garcia, the choreographer who won an Emmy for choreographing that number in the Tony's opening, put together this amazing choreography. And it was like once in a lifetime experience in the sense that like there probably / hopefully will never be another year where that all of those circumstances come together for that to be able to happen. So the moment that you saw earlier in the clip where I was playing piano and looking at the screen was there's a moment in this opening number which I highly recommend you go watch because Ariana DeBose is dancing and it's
insane.
Unbelievably insane. There's a moment where in the United Palace there's a grand staircase and she leaps all the way down the staircase and is caught at the bottom of it, and then the camera pans, and then I'm at the piano playing New York State of Mind by Billy Joel, until a bunch of dancers pop up and start spinning Aria around, and it turns into kind of like New York State of Mind meets Empire State of Mind meets NYC from Annie, and while she's running around to be like in the front of the venue. But that's what that moment was a blip from the Tony's opening. But that one is very, very special to me because in solidarity with writers and actors, I kind of hope that never converges to have to happen again. It was a special moment in time.
It was insane and magical. I was sweating in the United Palace that night.
Thank you.
It was amazing. It was
Thank you.
amazing. Okay, I've got an all skate for everyone. As you think about the projects that you've worked on throughout the course of your career, but particularly in the last couple of years, what do you hope that audiences take away from your work? Like, do you have a central tenet or focus or hope?
I mean, Kiss of the Spider Woman is about fandom, and Comic-Con is about fandom, and I hope that people see it and understand that it's kind of. Does anyone know the movie? I Saw the TV Glow. It's kind of the same. There's like the idea of a parasocial relationship between a fan and a star or media can be a projection of what their fantasies are. It could also be a reflection of what their tragedies are, or it can be both. Or and it could represent reality. It could twist reality. And I feel like especially in political or domestic situations that are troubling and traumatic, the screen becomes this vehicle for healing or for working through trauma in both of those artworks. And I think that I want people to see it and feel like it's affirming the audience, that the audience's relationship to media is not auxiliary. It's part of it.
Love it.
I mean, for me, I think there's one thing you guys can take away from here. It's appreciation for craft. It takes an army, a village for all of these type of projects to exist. And as an audience member, we're putting it out there for you. We want you to come see the story and react to it. But if you can look closer, you'll see certain projects are elevated in their craft. And I was super lucky to art direct Joker Folie, Deux. And the craftsmanship and the artistry in that, the textures, everything that you see in that film is built scenery. There's almost only like a handful of locations. If we're out running on the street, it's a location. And the big Arkham prison is a location. But every single prison cell, every single fantasy sequence, we did painted backdrops. I did a 40-foot by 200-foot painted sky drop of, Arkham City. outside of a rooftop. The rooftop's painted blue because the lighting wasn't blue enough. So I was like, oh, I'll just do it in paint. So there's theatricality in that film that you don't notice because it's done so cohesively with the cinematography, the costumes, and there was probably 500 artists and makers on that movie. So just appreciate the craft and the craftspeople and the unions that like support all of this filmmaking. And when you hear things like writer's strikes, and economy and productions moving offshore, all of that affects humans, working day jobs, sewing, painting, crafting, chiseling, screwing in, plugging in, simple stuff, but all of that stuff reinforces what you guys see as the final product on screen or in theater or in concert. None of it's done magically. It's human work. And the other thing I'll say is AI can't do it.
Well, I'm going to put in a plug for, it's Broadway to Hollywood and up there. What we do in live theater is not easy. It's a very delicate art form. But there's something really special about live theater, whether it's Broadway or your local town theater or anywhere around the world. And I've talked to people over so many years, and it's interesting. I always say, do you remember your first film? Do you remember your first concert, your first Broadway show? So many remember their first, I'll say, Broadway show, or maybe it was the big theater in their town, but they remember because mom dressed them up that day. It was a big deal. They went to a live show with real people on the stage. And for all the conversations over the years, will AI take over theater? Will this happen? Will that happen? I go, live theater's been around from the Greeks. If we learned anything during the shutdown, it's that we need to be together. We want this energy. So love films, and we need that preservation. We need those stories told. But I will just put my plug in, support the live arts as well, because we really found out how fragile, we were just a short few years ago. And we're still somewhat fragile for many other reasons, for the arts not being supported as we would like them to be in this country, and many other reasons. So thank you for coming to something that had the word Broadway on it. Thank you.
I'd like to second that. What you just said about the ancient Greeks resonates, because I often think about, I like to zoom way back and often ask myself, well, why are we doing that? Like, what are we doing? And I think why are you here? And what's Comic-Con? And why do we gather and talk to each other and have panel discussions? And I think I get really geeky and interested in humans' desire to always gather around the proverbial fire pit and share stories. And for me, it's like we as a species are constantly trying to work out like mortality and how do we live together as humans through storytelling, through theater, through filmmaking, through gathering for Comic-Con, through going to a concert, even through watching something by yourself on a cell phone. It's all these like forms of connection. And so I guess that is something I like to remind myself about often, and it's something that keeps me really invested in wanting to get into the details of the craft and the logistics and the politics of it all. But for me, fundamentally, it's about human connection.
Love it. Macy?
Well, as someone who does kind of an intersection of some of these things with movies and live, I guess I would hope that a takeaway from a lot of our work on this panel is that there's no, like Wendy said, there's no replacement for the live experience and the shared experience, but also that people do want to pay to come see an experience that makes them feel a sense of grandeur, that makes them feel like a sense of scale for something that they love. I started on the music making orchestration side. I moved very quickly and in a big way into the producing, managing money side, and you look at like, okay, well, is this thing worth it to add it to the budget? Should I really do those fireworks? Everyone told me not to do the fireworks. And it's like, people do want to go and have those experiences. People have asked, okay, well, why would someone want to go see a movie that they can see on HBO Max at home for a $75 ticket because the music's being played live?
To laugh and cry together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And something that I think about a lot, something that was also an aha moment is, I don't know if anybody here went to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, but the Taylor Swift Eras Tour changed my understanding of what live experiences are, because I went to it 2 times, one of which I was in the very, very back row of the very, very back nosebleeds, where she is an ant, like a tiny, tiny ant on the thing that you're really looking at on a screen. But at this tour, the fan community was like, I've never been to a tour like it. You meet every single fan that you're surrounded by, and in the bathroom, people are trading friendship bracelets, and like you come home with this experience of like, oh, I didn't just hear the tracks of the music that I know and like kind of watch the ant on the screen. You did it with 110,000, of your fellow fans, and that I feel like I've taken that into everything too. That there is a justification for it, and that people want to have those experiences. AI can't replace it, and that actually the more advanced our tools and digital technology become, those tools can be leveraged to make those grand live experiences even better and even more magical.
100%. All right, it is time for our final question, which is, I imagine there might be some creatives amongst our audience. Do you have any advice for emerging creatives who might want to work at this scale, whether on Broadway or concert or film?
Be cool.
That's a good one.
Like if you get lucky to work in any of our disciplines, it's a person-to-person craft, and your first job will inevitably lead to your next job, to your next job, to your next job. So every single project I've gotten, I can weave a thread between the artists and the makers and the people. And we are privileged, as Jason was saying, we're campfire storytellers. So it's a privileged job as well to like have your career in storytelling is like, we make believe. And I also joke that I design really, really expensive garbage. Because sadly, we don't recycle it enough, but it does, like eventually it ends up in the trash can. So it's also a tertiary art form where you have to go and witness the thing, experience it, as Macy was saying, as a collaborative unity of a group. And then it's infused in your memory, as Wendy was saying, the first thing you ever saw. So like, show up, work hard, play nice, be cool, and just work your way through it. And if you're all those things, someone will take note, and they'll call you for the next project.
Plus one.
Yeah. Good team player. I mean, it's obviously hone your craft, but you want to work with people that you would like. I would work with my 13 going on 30 people. I'm waiting for them to say what's next, because it was just a great experience and we did something good. But yeah, be a good team player.
Mine would be, I think, leave room for the possibility that the thing you're meant to do might not exist yet. And that there might not be a blueprint for it, and that you might not find it in like a catalog list of things that you can do or things that you can make in the entertainment industry. And that if something doesn't exist that you want to see, to make it. If there's a table that you want to join that doesn't exist, to build it.
Love that.
And don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Like, you learn from your biggest mistakes.
And there's no revolution without joy.
Ooh.
Beautiful.
Jumping off the joy word, I was going to say follow your joy, which is kind of a play off Joseph Campbell's famous follow your bliss, which is something I learned. I had a whole career as an architect, which was very responsible, but I was not enjoying it. And so I decided to just pursue what I wanted to do, and to focus on finding the people I wanted to work with, not worrying so much about getting to a certain, milestone, but simply to just like follow the path that feels correct, which is a privileged thing to be able to do and to say. I acknowledge that, but that is the advice I give to every person who asks me, how do I, become the next. They never ask me, how do I become the next Jason Ardizzone-West? They say, how do I work with Lady Gaga? Or how do I become the next Ez Devlin? And I say, Don't do that. Try to become yourself. Figure out what it is that's unique about your vision, and then pursue it.
Love it. Well, on that note, that is all the time we have for today. So thank you to our panelists, Jason, Wendy, Brian, David, and Macy, for being here with us discussing your absolutely incredible work. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great moderator.
Thank you to Impact 24 PR and New York Comic Con for putting this panel together, and to all of you for joining us. Tag us in your posts at Impact 24 PR. And thank you all so much. Have fun.